This is a podcast by the Straits Times.
Marcus Chew has spent much of his career in Singapore's property sector. In 1996, he joined ERA and in just 3 years became its first agent to cross $1 million in a year in commissions. From agent to agency leader, he's now chief executive of ERA, one of Singapore's largest real estate agencies. He's witnessed the entire arc of the industry's evolution from the boom years to the downturns to the regulatory shifts. When Marcus started out, Singapore's property market was a different creature. One could say that it was less transparent, more relationship-driven, with fewer tools for buyers and sellers to educate themselves. The agent was often the sole custodian of information, and that asymmetry shaped many things about how the sector operated. Over 3 decades, we've seen radical changes in the industry with online listings, price transparency, regulatory tightening, and the rise of digital-first startups challenging the traditional model. Yet through all that disruption, the ethical tensions do remain at the heart of the agent's role. Commission conflicts remain, trust gaps persist, and now, with artificial intelligence, there are questions about whether AI agents can replace property agents and solve those contradictions. What's the role and relevance of today's property agent? I'm Mubin Sadat, Deputy Opinion Editor at the Straits Times, and you're listening to In Your Opinion. Marcus, welcome to the studio.
Thank you, Mubin.
Marcus, you've risen to lead ERA, one of Singapore's largest agencies. When you look back at your early days in the industry versus now, what's changed most fundamentally about the agent's role?
Well, when I started off as an agent in the industry, I think the role is pretty straightforward. And it's very driven in terms of transactions. Of course, to close a deal, you need to find a seller and a buyer, which is more like matching. And at the same time, our focus is very much on satisfying our clients' needs and wants. If I would say that the industry have actually changed fundamentally in terms of the agent's role, I would say the biggest shift is regulations and also clients' expectation. So let's talk about regulations. Right now, the industry is very well regulated compared to in the 90s. Of course, there are more compliance and procedure to follow. And as such, it is becoming more and more complex when it comes to transactions administration. And also, because of the many rounds of cooling measures and policy changes, the procedures and the transactions will require somehow more careful in dealing with them. So the role of an agent has always been advisory driven. Having said that, in the past, clients are also looking for good advice. Right now, it's the same, but right now the expectation is different. Why? Because information is accessible across many different platforms and media.
Yes.
And clients expect us to, knows everything beyond what we know, because for one, they know from the social medias and the main media, it seems like that is like a basic knowledge that they already acquire. So being a housing agent, we have to be always in the forefront of information, because clients expect us not just accessibility to property, but also guidance for information. Because making sense of all the information that is required to complete the transactions include financing, regulations, market conditions, suitability, and also long-term implications for their sales and purchase. I guess that is one area that is so much fundamentally different in terms of the role of the agents, that is being a very well-informed professional. Okay, the other thing is agents in today's market has to differentiate oneself in a way, what makes you so different? Okay, like before, we differentiate ourselves by our service. So today, I would say it remains the same, that the agents that delivers consistent value-add service will position themselves as a trusted advisor. So the key here is trust is the most important in our profession. Okay, because if your clients trust you, they'll be able to stay with you and perhaps even becoming their circle of influence where they refer more clients to you. So personally, over the last 3 decades, I have been through different market cycles. For that, say 1998, 2008, and 2013, because these are the years where the property market's deep.
Yes.
Other than that, in Singapore, the property market from point A to point B is on an uptrend.
Yeah.
But one thing never changed in this up and down market is people still needs that trusted advisor. Okay, so for many Singaporeans, I think over the last 3 decades, buying a house is the biggest financial decisions. And they say, properties in Singapore is expensive. So my question is, since when property is cheap? So usually it is in a person's life milestone that they switch homes. I think the responsibility of agents is at that milestone of a person's life. So you either make a good, memorable milestone or a bad one. So I think the real estate agents is to guide someone through their life decisions with responsibility, and that's the key.
You mentioned trust, and many times you mentioned about that relationship that an agent needs to have with his client, and that's driven by trust.
Mm-hmm.
When we see the lifestyles of some property agents on social media now and how they become sort of even influencers, we can't help but wonder if more agents are becoming wealthy in the industry, making more money today compared to, say, when you started out at that point. When you think about those things and you see that property prices are rising at the rates we are seeing, would it be accurate to say that the market has actually benefited the industry and agents and made it more attractive for job seekers, which means you can actually make a lot of money becoming a property agent?
Okay, let's put it this way. If someone wants to be a $1 million earners in any industry, you have to put in that $1 million effort. You have to pay the price. I think people often overlook what an agent does that put him in that positions that gives him that recognitions of being a high achievers or high earners. Okay, I would like to share with you my experience with many high achievers is that they have made many sacrifices. Let's put it this way, I just have conversations with one of my top achievers this morning. They're very responsive because when I WhatsApp them, they reply immediately. So that shows that high achievers are someone that is always making opportunities happen. So they are very responsive. And next is when we converse, they always make these statements that, hey, looking back, perhaps I have not spent much time with my family. So in exchange for that honor and that glory of making high income, I think there is a price to pay, which is putting in your time and effort in the industry. So what you see in the social media is just the reward. Perhaps what is not said in the social media is the price that we pay as a real estate professional. I think the thing about clients' expectation, in fact, that is the one that I've emphasized, is that clients expect you to value add them. But very much whatever you see in the social media about the high life of a real estate agent, I think that is more on attracting people to become a real estate agents. We call that talent acquisition. You're trying to do recruitment. Other than that, I think clients is looking beyond that. Clients are looking for someone who they can trust so that they can share with you their needs and wants, which is often private. And if you are someone that can earn their trust through face-to-face interview, to speaking to you, to sensing your vibes on how responsive and how responsible you are, then you are someone that is able to earn their trust. I think that is something that is expected from agents over the few decades. Personally, I have experienced.
We've spoke about, from the agent's perspective, in a sense, what impacts them and what sort of motivates them. I want to just go into the client's perspective as well, the buyers and sellers. Agent commissions, they have risen, if you look at the numbers, because of the fact that property prices have risen as well over these years in Singapore. And often for clients, it's quite a hefty part of the transaction. right? And for someone wanting to buy or sell a house, and at that point of transaction, it's a cash component that they have to sort of fork out. Is it something, from your perspective, as someone who has interacted with many clients, who could be young couples, who could be seniors, who could be in financial challenges or difficulties, is there something that we should rethink in terms of that particular commission that we've always had in this structure of transactions that clients have to fork out?
Okay, let's put it this way. Commissions comes after a mission. That's why it's called commission. So what is the mission here? The service providers provide a service that fulfill a mission or accomplish a mission of achieving, if you are serving the seller, perhaps the highest possible price. If you are serving the buyer, perhaps the most reasonable purchase price, or perhaps something that is even value purchase price. So to the seller and to the buyer, each has its expectation. And it's also managing this expectation of both the seller and the buyer. So the mission, having said that, it is achieving highest possible price or lowest possible price, for that sake, depending on which side you are. It's important for us to know our position as a real estate salesperson, because commissions is negotiable. Although we recommend a certain commissions, which is like 2% of selling a properties and 1% for buying a properties, and there's no dual representations in terms of receiving commissions from both sides. That serves as a guide. Other than that, like sales, everything is negotiable. And negotiations very much, it touches on people's needs and wants and also emotions. So sometimes when emotions ran high, because properties is a very high value product, it is also a lifetime decision. So it comes with many things that touches on their feelings, their emotions.
It's an emotional transaction as much as it is a financial one, yes.
Yeah, because it's an emotional thing. So at times you may think that the service of the agent actually falls short of the expectation because you have negative emotions. But if you look at the totality of the whole service, it is beyond that. Actually, like I said earlier on, currently with so much regulations, procedures, informations, the agent is doing his best to simplify all these complex procedures into a very easy, seamless way of going through the deals.
And you're saying that it's not as easy as people think, is basically that there's a lot of work that goes into that simplification.
Yeah, so today if I bring a buyer and to a seller and I close the deal straight away, doesn't mean that it's a simple job. Perhaps to the seller it is, but do you know how much hard work the agents have before arriving at your doorstep with a buyer? Or perhaps do you know how much he have actually studied in knowing the whole system of getting a transaction done? All these requires time and effort. Just like your dentist who is pulling out your tooth. Do you know how much time and effort he has go through before he can pluck out your tooth and remove your toothache? And that's within minutes. And we don't say that's expensive. All right. But for real estate agents...
Some people would know.
Okay. But he did fulfill that mission. So let's put it this way. The mission of a real estate agent is to make the transactions as hassle-free as possible so that the client's needs and wants is fulfilled.
I think you make a very good point about the unseen work that goes behind a transaction. But you also mentioned regulation and how today regulation is much tighter as opposed to, say, when you started out. And we know for years the broader industry has this reputation problem, and whether it's information asymmetry, commission conflicts. And in 2010, when the Council of Estate Agencies was formed to regulate, this was part of the reason about all the complaints that were coming in. And essentially, it also was aimed to elevate the profession, the standards of professionalism to protect consumers. But I guess we're still seeing practices that cross ethical lines. And let me give you some examples. There was a recent case we reported about an agent who was fined for pocketing a difference by overcharging rent. Another report about a property agent using AI to enhance the images of homes for marketing. And another one where there was an agent who received double commission by deceiving both buyer and seller. Now, these are things sometimes that we can understand that there will always be bad actors in any industry, and they're not representative of the wider industry by any measure. But in light of all these cases that we are still seeing, would you say that that skepticism that people had before 2010 when CEA was formed and they did all that to elevate the industry, would you say that that skepticism or suspicion that still lingers is fair?
Okay. Wow. These are hard questions.
Take your time. Take your time.
Well, if we compare our profession with other professions, there's always the bad actors. Even today, when I open up the newspaper, I'm just looking at one of those in the medical industry that the doctor is being sued for certain things that he have done that's not supposed to be done. And perhaps some other days I've seen also news that certain lawyers was also in trouble for some things that they should not do. So for real estate agents, what example that you have quote are also those things that they are not supposed to do, but they have done it. Be it a character issue or be it a careless issue. I think we have seen all this, but it doesn't represent the majority. Okay, every industry have few bad actors, but it don't define that industry. And that industry is still very important, all right? Be it the example that I've just said, medical, legal, and now real estates. So there are many professionals that are doing good things. We are looking at that black dot on the white piece of paper. But majority of the agents are doing their work professionally and they're helping their clients. So I have to recognize that reputation issues in the industry do comes out. It don't just come out from nowhere. These kind of reputation issues, perhaps it revolve around the high-stake emotional, financial, significant products called property. So if something that is fall short in terms of standards and service expectation, the impact can be quite serious, all right? Which is you will be sued or you will be, complaints against. So it is understandable because Singaporean works very hard. And we view owning a home as a very important life goals. And we spend a lot of money in that. So obviously you expect your real estate salesperson to do a very good job. So industry standards, I would say that has improved a lot since the establishment of CEA, which is the Council of Estate Agents. Because right now, there is licensing, which is required of real estate agency and also real estate agents. And the training course and examinations is not an easy thing. In fact, I would say it's very robust and it requires someone of higher educations to be at the entry.
That exam has actually really raised the barrier to entry.
Of course. Yeah. Of course. So it's not an easy startup business, like I said. It requires you to be well educated. Otherwise, you can't pass the exam. And the failing rates is much higher than the passing rates. And there's also compulsory trainings that's required of practicing agents. So every year, you have to fulfill 16 hours of continuing professional development training program. In the past, it's 6 hours. So there's also continuous, rules and enforcement. So with so much done by CEA, we view that the industry have actually been professionalized, at least over the past 16 years. And of course, what's important is the bottom line is accountability. So right now, I would say that important thing is, so whatever you do every day, as long as you don't fall short of that regulations, you should do things that continue to help you to earn trust. Because that is the virtues that is required of you to earn your rights, which is your commissions. Okay? Because with trust, people will come to you rather than chase after them. So on the daily basis, we always educate our agents through our trainings and our processes. That is important to keep improving on our compliance and standards.
We read a forum letter recently where the writer asked if real estate agents should be regulated under the Financial Advisors Act or FAA. So there's a sense that sometimes these lines can be blurred, right? And because of the fact that people trust their property agents, it perhaps sometimes goes into the point that they respect their advice on matters that may not necessarily be in the ambit of a property agent. Advice on property-related transactions falls outside the scope of the CEA and the FAA, but we've heard of agents often on social media framing it, for instance, as a retirement card to entice potential buyers. They talk about how this could solve their retirement problems because this would be valued at this amount over these years, and you would be able to cash in at this point, settle down with maybe a smaller property, and you have this much for your retirement needs. Should property agents be giving such financial advice on social media or any platform for that matter? What's your view?
I think you brought out a very good point on the financial industry versus the real estate industry. And who knows? Perhaps that's in the near future. We see this as evolving. Okay, the industry actually has been upgrading. And I don't think that's the end. There's still room for improvement in terms of agents' behavior, in terms of regulations. And also, of course, most important is how clients can benefit from all this. Okay, so let's get back to the current regulators, which is CEA. I think CEA have already put in place a lot of good measures and framework that is there to ensure home buyers and consumers protection. So, of course, it has been over the last 16 years. And perhaps in the next 16 years, there are more controls and regulation on what you see in social media. Okay. Yes, I agree with you. There are perhaps some gray area that is like giving a financial advice versus a property advice. So that may make it more important for real estate salespersons to take responsibility of some things that we call ethics and values. So I think this is something that is what we promote in my company, ERA, on having the right skill set must comes with the right values and ethics and heart set. Because at ERA, we always say this: you can lose a deal, but you cannot lose your integrity. So being a professional, we cannot chase for deals without looking into the interests of our clients first.
You're someone who's known to embrace technology and encourage its use, in fact, in ERA itself. In fact, I was reading your About section on LinkedIn, and I quote, you said, looking ahead, you understand that change is the only constant. As technology continues to revolutionize the way we conduct transactions, you anticipate a digital future where tech-savvy agents thrive in an increasingly digital market, unquote. Did it cross your mind at that point that artificial intelligence or AI could replace the role of property agents? Because we're talking about this technology replacing so many jobs across industries, whether it's entry-level jobs or whether it's even mid-level management. I had a conversation with a doctor recently about how he said even robotics and AI may even replace him as a general practitioner. In this realm of agentic AI and how it is already reshaping so many industries, are you worried that we might reach a stage where AI could eliminate the role of a property agent at some point, where the technology could disintermediate agents entirely?
Okay, as you're asking that question, I'm actually reflecting what I've done over the last 3 decades in terms of embracing technology. I think in the 90s, it's never heard of about social media. In the 90s also, our communication tools is very simplified. It's just a mobile phone, the public phone. And have you heard about public phone?
Of course. I grew up in that time.
The public phone.
The 10 cents was very important.
The 10 cent coins or even the phone card is so important.
Absolutely, yes.
Okay, so we have that in every HDB void decks. Now we don't see that.
Yes.
Okay, and in the coffee shops where you always have the 10 cent coins phones, right? So things have changed so much, right? From telecommunication tools to computers, digital. I recall that in the 90s, I'm the first few agents, perhaps the first agent in my company, ERA, to have my own website, personal websites. And it took me like spending $2,000 to create a website from a website designer. And there are many limitations that back then. It didn't take off well because many people don't look at website yet. But I did.
You are a first mover in a sense in the industry.
Perhaps, yeah. That is like in 1998. But if you fast forward to today, that website right now can be created, personalized, customized according to your wants within seconds using our own proprietary super app called Sales Plus. So I would say that technology is an enabler. It's not an eliminator. I don't think it removes the role of agents, but it enables the agent to do their job better and at a lower cost. So it does means that agents have to up your own standard, which means technology is here to raise the bar of the profession. Okay, any profession. I always believe that the companies or the professional who knows how to use tech will be in an advantage position as compared to those who don't. So today, I see that AI, which is so much promoted by our government, is moving very fast, and it becomes like an advantage or a threat to the country. So to the bigger extent, I mean, like individual, if you knows how to use tech, you are better. The countries, if you embrace technology, you're also better. So we sing the same song. So today, that tech in the form of artificial intelligence, I mean, I always call it assistant intelligence. So it's assisting you. It provides content generation for my agents and social media scripting, storyboards, data analysis, lead generations, and property reports. All these at the convenience of using our apps within seconds. So we can generate all these end results without us spending so much, and it is at a very fast speed. So we can market properties more effectively, and we spend more time in human interactions, which is more important for sales. So interpreting the market trends is also with the help of AI, and perhaps even helping clients to make decisions by narrowing the options by using our AI comparisons between property. But of course, let's come back to terms on human judgment and responsibility. AI cannot negotiate deal at this moment while we are talking. At the same time, AI cannot manage clients' emotion. And when emotions ran high at the point of negotiation, that AI tools probably will not be there to be able to help you solve that expectations from both sides. And that require your skill as a human to mitigate and make sure that you use your human context and oversight of the whole thing. So machines can only help us to a certain extent at this moment. Let me give you an example. I encountered a case where a property under reconstruction was valued using AI, our own tools. Okay, so the AI assumed that the development was fully completed because the planning submissions is reflected in that system, resulting in a pricing that is already estimating the future values. That means it is premature. And in a way, if you were to present the future values, it's inaccurate. So it does have a value of future values, but it also means that you have to use it and present it accurately, that this is future values. It's not current value. So this goes to reinforce the needs of agents to apply judgments.
A human being at the center of it all.
And checks. Of course, AI can only give us that information. We still have to do our checks. So today, as I'm talking to you, I have a note in front of me. This is also checked and reviewed by our own proprietary AI that we have integrated into our system. But it doesn't mean that I'm speaking to you like an AI. I still use my own words to talk to you. All right. But the AI helps me to ensure that the flow of my presentations is properly scripted out. But it doesn't have something that I call soul.
But let me paint you a hypothetical scenario, because often one of the bugbears for buyers and sellers is the documentation, because there's just so much paperwork to do when you are thinking about selling or buying a property. And of course, you've got to make sure that the paperwork is done perfectly. If not, it gets rejected. And a lot of the terminologies, they can be complicated for the average person. What if AI or someone comes up with an AI agent or a tool that can solve that problem for you? So your role as the buyer is to do the negotiation. My point is, it may not be that the AI technology itself may be the problem, but if someone was to use it, like how people have used AI to come up with Mid-Journey, or for that matter, editing tools that have put, video editors out of jobs in some institutions and organizations. I'm just wondering, what would be that next level that you would expect property agents to move up to sort of take on a different roles now that AI is doing all of this? Do you see that scenario coming soon? And how would you prepare your property agents to sort of be ready for that eventuality?
Like early on, I said that, AI is not replacing agent. It is an enabler, and it's also raising the bar for our agents. So we emphasize a lot to our agents that you got to embrace that change in technology, which is not to fear it, not to imagine things that, you are in that sunset industry because there is this tech that will come in and to eliminate you. But our narrative is very clear, is that we are wanting our agents to adopt all the enabler that we have created for them. Because tech without adoptions is nothing. So if an agent keep imagining that, you'll be replaced, then I think you better get out of the job. I would say that agents have to keep adopting AI or technology, and who knows what's next. We cannot imagine what is next. Because seriously, 30 years ago, if you were to tell me if I had a time machine to move 30 years later, I would have something called AI or ChatGPT to help me to script my training program or my marketing scripts. I cannot imagine that. So now you take a time machine moving forward 30 years later, you also cannot imagine, wow, 30 years later you have this. But do you know something never changed over the last 30 years that I've just said earlier on is, that's called trust again. Is that people do business with people they trust, not because they are AI. So unless you tell me you trust AI, then that is the day that, hey, the AI trust supersedes the human trust. Then that is the challenge. But right now, like I said, we still have to do our checks because the context is different. And the way it is presented is still very machine at the current moment. So AI is much more than ChatGPT. I mean, if you look at our Sales Plus super apps, ChatGPT is just one of those tools that we integrate into our system. There is a slew of AI text applications that we have integrated into our system. So our agents have to appreciate that with tech, they are able to enhance their presentation and their service to their clients. So I would say that currently, 2026, we are doubling our effort in implementing more artificial intelligence into our system. So tech is moving very fast. We have to move as fast to be in the forefront of this change.
I have just one final question for you. What's the one conversation you wish the property sector was having but isn't?
Okay, many a times I think the industry emphasize on transactions and home prices. Okay, needless to say, playing the role of a CEO of a public listed company, we always look at revenues, market share, dividends, all right, and that is being shareholder-centric. Then, of course, it is also very easy to think that success in the real estate is measured by sales volume. Being a millionaire realtor or being someone that you see is so successful in social media, driving a branded cars or carrying yourself many branded goods. So personally, I think these are overrated. I would say that there should be more conversation on the kind of service that we provide for clients. So every year during our annual business conference, besides giving out top achievers award in terms of transactions or sales commissions, we also focus on best service award. So how do we rate best service awards? It's by the client's review and also recommendations from clients writing into the company. So because there's this award, so we see that our clients are writing in and giving reviews to our agents because our agents request for that reviews. So many of the agents that I have reviewed actually has one thing that is impressive. And I think these are the things that we should promote more. Okay, it is what are the things that agents have done beyond the extra miles. Okay, of course, agents is not there to queue up to buy the mee pok that is the best in Tiong Bahru or anywhere. Agents is there to value add you in terms of your property journey, perhaps not your life journey. Like I said, agents are there during your milestone, your life milestone. I mean, someone wants to do a home purchase is because he's getting married. Or someone wants to do a home sale is because getting divorced. Or someone that wants to upgrade is because you have a new member that is coming. Or someone want to right size because it's at the time of your life that you want to retire. So there are such moments that we are there. So perhaps these are the things that we have been doing that should shed a light to the public that actually we are providing services that is more than just real estate. We are there in the biggest decisions of our clients' life and helping them make sense of their decisions. Perhaps the next step for us is to take on this best practice and make them widely shared. And then you will probably agree that the agent is worth their commissions.
Marcus, thank you very much for being on In Your Opinion.
Thank you so much.
I'm Mubin Sadat. You can email us your thoughts on this issue. Also, if you'd like to read ST articles or opinion columns, these links can be found in our podcast show notes. This episode is edited by Amirul Karim. Thanks for listening.
Send your feedback to podcast@sph.com.sg. Find us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or within our Straits Times app. Thanks for listening.